The twin suns were setting behind the broken towers of a forgotten city, their red light spilling across the dusty streets of the alien bazaar. The human traveler walked slowly through the crowd, his boots pressing against metal plates that covered the ground. The air smelled of smoke, spice, and oil, and voices in many strange tongues filled his ears. Creatures of every shape and color moved from stall to stall, trading glowing crystals, living plants in jars, and weapons that hummed with hidden power. The human's name was Marcus, a wanderer who had seen many worlds, but this bazaar felt different. Here the air carried something heavy, a feeling that pressed against his chest, as if secrets hid in every corner. He looked around carefully, his hand near the sidearm on his belt. He had learned long ago never to trust a place that looked too alive yet too silent inside. He passed a stall where a three-eyed merchant sold cages of tiny winged lizards, their wings beating so fast they became a blur. Children laughed and pointed. Another stall displayed armor made of black glass. Sharp enough to cut flesh with a touch, Marcus kept moving, pretending not to notice the stares he received. Humans were rare here, and every eye seemed to follow him with quiet curiosity. Then, in the center of the bazaar, he saw something that stopped him cold. A platform of dark stone raised above the crowd, and chained upon it was a figure unlike any he had ever seen. It was a woman, tall and striking, her skin faintly silver, her hair long and black, shining as if it drank the light of the suns. Her arms and legs were bound by glowing chains. Heavy and cruel above her head hung a sign, written in dozens of alien languages. Marcus could read one version in human tongue. The words were simple, chilling. Take as you wish. The crowd around the platform jeered and laughed, some threw scraps of food at her feet. Others shouted insults. Marcus felt his throat tighten. He had seen slaves before, but never like this. The woman did not bow her head. She did not cry. Her glowing eyes stared forward, proud and unbroken, as if the chains only bound her body, not her spirit. Marcus asked the nearest merchant, a creature with skin like wet stone, "What is this? Who is she?" The merchant hissed a laugh. "She is nothing, a fallen one, chained for all to mock. Chained so the Empire can show its power. Take her if you dare, human. Take her and see what happens." The merchant's words sent a chill down Marcus's spine. The human stepped closer, ignoring the voices that rose behind him. He studied the chains. They pulsed with strange energy. Symbols carved into them glowed faintly. These were not simple bonds. They were something more. Something made to suppress. He glanced at the woman. Her eyes shifted to meet his. For a moment he felt as if a storm lived inside her gaze, cold and burning at once. The crowd grew restless, whispers spreading. What is the human doing? Does he not know? No one touches the chained one. The voices rose into laughter, then anger. Marcus's hand trembled. Part of him wanted to turn away, leave her there, pretend he had never seen her. It would be safer, easier, but deep inside his heart, a voice pushed him forward. No one deserved to be displayed like this. No one deserved chains under a sign that treated them like an object. He reached the platform, climbed the stone steps. The crowd shouted, some warned, some mocked. The guards at the far end watched with narrowed eyes but did not move. Perhaps they wanted to see what a foolish human would do. Marcus stood before the alien woman. Her expression was sharp, her voice low and cold. "Go away, human. Do not touch these chains." Marcus did not answer. His hand reached for the first shackle. The metal was hot against his skin. The glow pulsed brighter, and a sharp sting ran through his arm. He gritted his teeth and pulled. The lock clicked and opened. The chain fell with a heavy sound. Gasps rose from the crowd. The woman's eyes widened, not with gratitude but with warning. "You do not understand," she whispered, her voice like thunder hidden under calm water. Marcus ignored her. He moved to the next chain. His fingers shaking, the crowd roared now, some shouting for guards, some screaming in disbelief. No one had ever tried this before. The second chain snapped free. A faint tremor shook the platform. Dust falling from the stone, Marcus felt his heart race. Sweat ran down his forehead. Still he moved. Still he fought against the heat and the sting. When the third chain broke, the ground itself seemed to groan, the air thick with tension. The woman looked at him with strange eyes, half fury, half something else. "Stop, you do not know what you are doing," but Marcus only muttered under his breath. No one deserves chains. The final shackle clicked open. The last chain fell with a sound that echoed across the bazaar. The woman stood, tall and free, her power no longer hidden. The crowd fell silent. A heavy silence filled the air, and then, From the shadows beyond the platform, a deep voice thundered, shaking the very ground. "You should not have done that, human." The bazaar fell into silence. A silence so heavy that even the sound of the twin suns burning above seemed distant. Every eye was fixed on the platform, on the human who dared to do the unthinkable, and on the alien woman now standing without chains, her silver skin glowing faintly under the fading light, her dark hair flowing like a shadow in the wind. Marcus stood still, his hand still tingling from the strange energy that had burned him. Sweat clung to his face. He could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his chest. He had done it. He had broken the chains. He expected the woman to collapse in relief, or perhaps thank him, but she did neither. Instead, she stepped forward, her tall frame radiating strength, her eyes like storms, her voice calm but sharp. "Foolish human, you have no idea what you have just done." The crowd began to whisper, some backing away, others laughing nervously. A merchant spat on the ground and shouted, "The human has cursed himself. He has freed the cursed one." Another voice screamed, "Call the guards. Stop them before it's too late." But none of them dared to approach the platform. Marcus's jaw tightened. He had faced danger before, but this felt different. The weight of 1,000 unseen eyes pressed down on him. He looked at the woman, her posture proud yet tense, like a predator just released from a cage. "I couldn't just leave you there," he said quietly, though his voice shook. "No one deserves to be chained like that." Her gaze locked with his. Fierce and unyielding, she stepped closer, the chains clattering as they slid fully off her body, sparks of light escaping where the glowing metal touched the stone. "These were not chains," she whispered, leaning close so only he could hear. "They were seals, human, seals meant to contain me, not just bind me." Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The word seals echoed in his mind. He glanced at the broken shackles, the symbols carved into them still glowing faintly before fading into nothing. If they were seals, then what exactly had he just unleashed? Before he could ask, a thunderous roar shook the air. Armored guards stormed into the bazaar, their weapons humming with energy. The crowd scattered in panic, stalls overturned. Crates of glowing fruit rolled across the ground. The guards aimed their blasters at the platform. Their leader shouted, "Step away, human! Step away from the chained one." Marcus raised his hands slowly, not in surrender but in confusion. "She's not chained anymore, she's free," he called out. But his words only seemed to anger the soldiers. The woman stepped in front of him, her arms spreading slightly, her eyes blazing with cold fire. The guards hesitated. They had faced her before, but never without her chains. Their fear leaked through their movements. Marcus noticed it. The way their fingers twitched nervously on the triggers, the way their boots shuffled as if ready to retreat. This was not the confidence of hunters. This was the terror of prey. The woman turned her head just enough to glance at Marcus. "You do not understand. They are not afraid of me being dangerous. They are afraid of me being free." Her voice carried both pride and sorrow. Marcus swallowed hard. Questions burned in his mind. But there was no time. The guards raised their weapons. Beams of blue light flashed through the air. Instinct took over. Marcus grabbed the woman's arm and pulled her down as the blast seared past them, striking the stone wall and sending shards flying. The bazaar exploded into chaos. Merchants screamed, creatures fled. The guards advanced step by step, shouting orders in harsh alien words. The woman straightened, her eyes glowing brighter. She raised her hand, and for the first time Marcus saw a glimpse of her true nature. The air rippled around her palm. A pulse of invisible force burst outward. The nearest guard was thrown across the plaza, his armor cracking against the stone. The crowd gasped, fear now turning into awe. Marcus stared, his heart pounding. She had not even touched the soldier, yet he flew like a doll tossed aside. "What are you?" he whispered, but she did not answer. Instead, she stepped down from the platform, chains falling behind her like dead snakes. Her voice low, "If you value your life, human, follow me." She moved swiftly through the panicked bazaar, and Marcus followed, his instincts screaming to run. Yet something deeper told him to stay close to her. The guards fired again. Beams scorched the air, stalls exploded in flame, but somehow she guided him through every corner, every narrow path, as if she had walked these alleys 100 times before. They reached a shadowed passage at the far end of the bazaar. Marcus's lungs burned. His legs ached, but she did not slow when he stumbled. She caught his arm, her grip strong and steady. Her eyes briefly softened, only for a moment, then turned sharp again. Behind them, the guards shouted. The hunt had begun. The woman pressed her hand against a metal door hidden in the wall. Strange symbols glowed under her touch, and the door slid open with a hiss. She looked at Marcus once more, her voice calm yet heavy with meaning. "You freed me, human, but in doing so, you have chained yourself to my fate." Marcus hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in. He had not just broken chains, he had stepped into a storm he could not yet see, and as the door closed behind them, cutting off the sounds of pursuit, he realized his life would never be the same again. The secret door closed behind them with a heavy thud, the echoes fading into the narrow passage. Marcus leaned against the wall, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. The woman stood tall beside him, calm despite the chaos they had left behind, her silver skin still faintly glowing, her hair flowing in the dim light like strands of midnight. Outside, the bazaar was no longer a place of trade and laughter. It had turned into a battlefield. Marcus could hear the shouts of guards, the screams of merchants, the crack of weapons firing. The air carried the smell of smoke and burned metal. Somewhere above, alarms wailed, a cold warning that spread across the entire city. The woman's voice cut through the noise, low and controlled. "They will hunt us now, they will not stop. Not until either you are dead or I am chained again." Her words carried no fear, only certainty. Marcus frowned, his mind racing. Why are they so afraid of you? What are you really?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly like embers under ash. "You ask questions you are not ready to hear answers for," she replied. "But know this, human. The chains you broke were not meant to keep me safe. They were meant to keep everyone else safe from me." Marcus felt a chill crawl down his spine, but before he could speak again, the passage shook. Blasts struck the outer wall. Dust rained from the ceiling. The guards had tracked them already. The woman grabbed his arm, her grip strong. "Move now," she ordered. And together they ran deeper into the twisting tunnels. The corridors bent sharply, filled with old pipes and rusted wires. Steam hissed from broken valves. The sound of boots echoed behind them. Closer with every step, Marcus drew his sidearm, his knuckles white around the grip. He knew it was useless against an army, but holding it gave him strength, gave him focus. They reached an exit, a metal grate that opened into the back alleys of the bazaar. The woman tore it open with her bare hands, her strength surprising Marcus again. Outside, the scene was worse. Fires burned across stalls. Guards in black armor pushed through the panicked crowd, searching every corner. Hunters unleashed mechanical beasts that sniffed the air, their red eyes glowing as they tracked scents. Marcus cursed under his breath. "We're trapped." But the woman shook her head, her gaze sharp. "Not yet," she whispered. She placed her hand on his chest suddenly. Pressing firmly, he stiffened, ready to push her away. But then he felt something strange, a warmth spreading from her palm, a shimmer wrapping around him like mist. He looked down and saw his body blur slightly, his outline bending like heat over sand. "What did you do?" he asked in shock. Her voice was steady. "A veil, temporary. It will confuse their eyes, but not for long. We must move fast." Marcus blinked. The world around him looked the same, but when the guards passed nearby, their glowing visors slid right past him. As if he wasn't there, his heart pounded. He realized she was far more powerful than he had imagined. They slipped through the alleys, weaving between shadows. Stepping over debris, the veil held, but Marcus could see it flicker faintly. Every second it weakened. The woman kept glancing behind them, her posture tense. "They are calling more than guards now," she muttered. "They will summon hunters, and once hunters come, there is no hiding." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady. "Hunters? What kind of hunters?" She turned her head slowly, her expression grim. "The kind that do not stop. The kind that track through stars. The kind that will smell your blood on another world." Her words sank into him like ice. A sudden explosion ripped through the alley ahead. Debris rained down. Flames licked the walls. Figures emerged from the smoke, armored, heavy, their weapons glowing with cold blue light. Marcus raised his blaster, but the woman pushed his hand down. "Do not waste it," she said firmly. "Your weapon cannot harm them, only slow them." The guards raised their weapons. The crowd screamed again. Marcus's instincts screamed at him to run. But the woman stood still, her eyes bright, her voice calm. "Stay behind me," she commanded. Then she lifted her arm slowly. The air around her seemed to bend. A low hum filled the alley. Marcus felt his hair stand on end, and then it happened. A wave of invisible force burst outward, slamming into the armored soldiers. Their weapons flew from their hands, their bodies thrown back into the burning stalls. The ground shook, walls cracked, The crowd gasped and fell silent. Marcus stared, his mouth dry. She had not moved more than a hand. Yet the power she unleashed could have destroyed a ship. "What are you?" he whispered again, but this time his words carried more awe than fear. The woman turned her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Someone who was never meant to be free again," she said softly, then grabbed his arm, pulling him into another street. The veil had faded completely now. The guards shouted as they saw them clearly. More boots pounded against the ground. They ran, weaving through fire and smoke. The bazaar had turned into a trap. Every path blocked, every exit guarded. Marcus felt the walls closing in. He stumbled but kept moving, his breath ragged. The woman pulled him forward without pause, her strength unshaken. Finally, they reached the edge of the bazaar, a wide square where the crowds had fled. Only soldiers remained, their leader stepping forward, his voice booming. "Human, you have made a mistake you cannot undo. Give her back, and we may let you live." Marcus froze, his body tense. The woman's hand tightened on his shoulder, her voice low but steady. "Do not answer." Not yet. The square filled with soldiers, weapons aimed, the air heavy with smoke and fear. Marcus knew they had nowhere to run, his heart hammered. His finger brushed his weapon again, but he knew it was hopeless. The woman stepped forward, her silver skin glowing brighter now, her voice sharp and fierce echoing across the square. "If you want me chained again, you will have to break me." The soldiers flinched. Even their leader took half a step back, and Marcus realized something deep. They were not just afraid of her power, they were afraid of what she represented, and in that moment, standing beside her, Marcus understood. This was no rescue anymore. This was war. The night came quickly, the suns dipped below the jagged horizon, and the burning bazaar faded behind them. Marcus followed the alien woman through twisting alleys that smelled of rust and smoke. The city groaned like a dying machine, its towers leaning, its lights flickering. Every shadow felt alive. Every corner whispered danger. They moved silently, their footsteps muffled on broken stone. Marcus's breath was heavy, his chest ached. But the woman moved like flowing water, graceful, tireless, her eyes always scanning, her senses sharp. She never slowed, never stumbled. Marcus wondered if she even felt fear. At last she stopped, pressing her hand against a hidden panel in the wall of a ruined building. With a low hum, the wall split open, revealing a narrow chamber inside. The door closed behind them with a hiss, cutting off the distant shouts of soldiers. Marcus leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from his face. "We can't keep running forever," he muttered. "They'll never stop." The woman stood in the dim light, her tall frame casting long shadows on the walls. Her voice calm, almost too calm. "You are right, human. They will not stop, not until we are caught. Or until I am destroyed." Her words carried no fear, only truth. Marcus stared at her, frustration rising. "Then tell me who you are. Tell me why they fear you so much, why they would chain you under a sign like an animal." His voice echoed in the chamber, sharp and demanding. For a long moment she said nothing, her glowing eyes fixed on him, unreadable. Then she stepped closer, her silver skin shimmering faintly, her voice soft but heavy. "My name is Solara, last heir of the Varen Dominion, once rulers of 50 worlds. Once feared as gods." Marcus blinked, the words sinking slowly into his mind. The name Varen stirred faint memories from old records. A fallen empire crushed generations ago. Their rulers vanished, their armies scattered. He shook his head. "That's impossible. The Varen are gone, just history, myths." Solara's gaze hardened. "Do I look like a myth to you?" she asked, her voice edged with bitterness. "The chains you broke, they were not punishment alone. They were humiliation, a warning to every race. This is what happens to those who once ruled. This is what happens when power becomes fear." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. The empire that now hunted them had paraded her like a trophy, not because she was weak, but because she represented something they wanted buried, something they wanted the galaxy to forget. "So you were their prisoner," he said slowly, "a prisoner they put on display." Solara's eyes narrowed. "Not just a prisoner, a reminder. Every laugh, every jeer from that crowd was a knife into the memory of my people. They wanted me broken, wanted me to beg, but I never did." Her voice shook. Only slightly, but Marcus heard it. He looked at her in silence, his mind torn between awe and fear. She was powerful, dangerous, yet there was something human in her defiance, something that stirred a strange respect in him. "Why didn't you fight back?" he asked quietly. "Why didn't you escape sooner?" Her expression darkened. Because of the seals. The chains bound more than my body, they bound my spirit. They locked away the power of my bloodline. As long as they remained, I was no more than a shadow. No more than a spectacle, she said, then looked directly at him, her eyes burning. And you, human, you broke them. Marcus's breath caught. He remembered the sting of the glowing chains, the way the air had shaken when each shackle fell. I didn't know, he whispered. I just thought it wasn't right. Leaving you there. Solara studied him for a long moment, her gaze piercing then for the first time. Her voice softened. Mercy. That is a word your kind seems to treasure. Few others in this galaxy would have shown it, fewer still to someone like me. Her lips curved, not into a smile but into something close, something fragile before Marcus could answer. The chamber shook, dust fell from the ceiling. The sound of boots echoed outside. Soldiers again? Solara's eyes sharpened. The moment gone, she placed her hand on the wall. Symbols glowed, a second passage opened. Leading into darkness, they will not stop. But here in the shadows, I can guide us. I know the paths they have forgotten. They entered the hidden tunnel, narrow and cold. Marcus followed close. The sound of pursuit fading behind them, he whispered. You said your people ruled 50 worlds. What happened? How did it all fall? Her steps slowed, her voice grew heavy. Pride happened. We thought ourselves eternal, but we enslaved, we conquered. And in time the galaxy united against us. They tore down our fleets, burned our palaces, and when it ended, I was the last. She paused, her voice low. I was meant to die, but instead they chose chains. Because chains are worse than death. Marcus felt her pain in the darkness, the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. He wanted to speak, to comfort, but no words came. She had lived through centuries of hate and memory. What comfort could he give? At last they emerged from the tunnel into the ruins of an old district. Empty streets stretched before them, broken towers leaning against one another. Solara turned to him, her eyes hard again. Now you see, human. You have tied yourself to my fate. You cannot walk away. The Empire will see you as my ally, and for that they will hunt you too. Marcus clenched his fists. The truth sinking in, he had freed her with mercy. But now he was bound by consequence still. As he looked at her standing proud in the shadows, he felt something deeper stir inside him. A quiet voice that said it was worth it. Solara turned toward the distant skyline where patrol lights cut through the night. Her voice sharp and steady. The hunt begins again. And this time, we run together. The ruins stretched endlessly, broken towers leaning like the bones of giants. The night sky burned with red lights as patrol ships cut across the clouds. Search beams swept over the city, their glow flashing against cracked walls and shattered glass. Marcus and Solara moved quickly, their shadows darting through the rubble. The silence of the streets broken only by distant alarms and the roar of engines above. Marcus's chest ached with every step, but Solara moved without pause, her tall figure cutting through the dark like a blade. She glanced back at him once, her eyes glowing faintly. You must keep up, human, if they catch us here. There will be no escape. Her voice carried no doubt. Only command, he nodded breathlessly, pushing himself harder. The thought of soldiers swarming from every corner kept his legs moving. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching from every rooftop. Every ruined arch, the city itself seemed alive, whispering warnings through the wind. A sudden boom shook the ground. Marcus stumbled. Dust raining from broken walls above them, a patrol ship descended, its massive frame blotting out the stars. Spotlights swept across the street, locking onto them. A metallic voice thundered from the loudspeakers. By order of the Imperial Council, surrender the chained one, and the human may yet live. Solara's expression hardened. She raised her hand and the air rippled. Marcus felt the pressure push against his chest as if the world itself held its breath. Then a surge of invisible force burst upward. Slamming into the ship, its engine screamed. Fire erupted from its side. The ship spun out of control, crashing into a nearby tower. The explosion lit the ruins like a second sun. Marcus shielded his face from the blast, his ears ringing. You brought the whole city down on us, he shouted. But Solara's voice remained calm. No, human, they were already coming. This only shows them I will not be chained again. Before Marcus could respond, more lights appeared in the distance. Dozens of ships circling, their engines humming like predators. The air filled with the pounding of boots. The Empire had unleashed its fury. The hunt was no longer a secret, it was war. Solara pulled Marcus into a narrow alley, her voice low but sharp. Listen carefully, they will not rest. Once they mark you as my ally, you are their enemy. Your name will be written on their list. Your kind will not save you. Marcus swallowed hard, his voice quiet. Then why keep me alive? Why not leave me behind? I'm slowing you down. She stopped, her eyes glowing fiercely. Because you freed me when no one else would. Because you gave mercy where none was owed. That ties us together, and I do not break my ties. For a moment her voice softened, but the distant roar of soldiers broke it apart. They darted through the ruins. The sound of mechanical hunters grew louder. Marcus glanced back and froze. Machines moved like beasts of iron and bone, their claws digging into stone, their red eyes glowing like embers. They sniffed the air, tracking, never slowing. What are those things? He whispered, his voice tight with fear. Solara's face darkened. Bloodhounds forged from flesh and machine. They track the soul as much as the scent. There is no hiding from them, only fighting. The beasts leapt forward, their growls echoing. Marcus raised his blaster, firing wildly. Bolts of light struck the ground, some hitting metal limbs but doing little. The creatures moved too fast, one lunged, its claws reaching for him. But Solara stepped in front, her hand flashing. A wave of energy sent the beast crashing into a wall, its body breaking apart in sparks and blood. Marcus's chest heaved, fear mixing with awe. You could tear them all apart. Why keep running? He asked. Solara's eyes narrowed. Because every strike I use draws more hunters. Every pulse of power is a beacon. And they will send worse than hounds if I show too much. The streets narrowed ahead, leading into an old temple. Its doors broken, its roof half gone. They rushed inside, the shadows swallowing them. The silence here was thick, broken only by the flicker of torches left by scavengers. Marcus leaned against a pillar. Gasping for air, Solara stood in the center, her gaze sweeping across the ruined hall. He spoke, his voice quiet. You said your people once ruled, and the galaxy rose against you. Maybe they hunt you because they fear it happening again. Her head turned slowly, her eyes sharp. Yes, fear drives them, but fear blinds them. They do not see that mercy could end the cycle. They only know chains and fire. Her voice lowered. And now they will treat you the same, because you dared to show me mercy. Marcus felt a chill, the truth heavy in his chest. He had not only freed her, he had tied his fate to hers. No empire would forgive that. So what do we do now? He asked. His voice steady though his heart raced. Solara stepped closer, her tall form casting a long shadow across the broken floor. Now, human, we fight to survive, and in surviving we make them remember that mercy can be stronger than fear. Her hand brushed the cold stone wall, symbols glowing faintly where her fingers touched. Hidden paths revealed themselves, leading deeper underground. Outside, the hunters roared, soldiers shouted. Ships circled like vultures. The Empire was closing in. Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, knowing it was too small against such power. Yet he stood straighter, his resolve hardening. He had chosen this path when he broke those chains. There was no turning back. Solara turned to him, her voice calm but fierce. From this moment, you are no longer just a human wanderer. You are marked, hunted, but if you walk beside me, then you are more. You are part of something the Empire cannot chain. Her words echoed in the empty temple, and Marcus felt something stir inside him. Not fear, not regret, but a quiet fire. The sound of marching boots grew closer, shadows moving at the door. The Empire had found them again. Solara's eyes blazed like stars, her voice steady. Then let them come. The temple shook as blasts hammered its broken walls. Dust fell in heavy clouds, the air thick with smoke and fear. Marcus crouched behind a shattered pillar, his blaster gripped tightly though he knew it was useless against an army. Solara stood in the center of the ruined hall, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her tall figure framed in the flickering firelight. The doors burst open, soldiers poured in, their armor black, their weapons humming with cold energy. Their leader stepped forward, his voice harsh and echoing. Surrender, Chained One, or we will burn this city to ash. The soldiers raised their weapons, their sights fixed on her. Solara lifted her hand slowly. The air bent around her. Marcus felt the ground tremble under his boots. She could have unleashed her power then. She could have torn the soldiers apart, but instead she lowered her hand, her voice calm yet heavy. You threaten me with fire. But it is not my fire you fear. It is the fire of your own past, the fire my people once lit across the stars. The soldiers shifted nervously, some glancing at one another, even armored. Marcus could see their fear. Solara turned to him suddenly, her voice sharp but not unkind. Human, you must know the truth. Before you decide if you will keep walking beside me, Marcus froze, sweat running down his face, his heart pounding. "What truth?" he asked. His voice low, her gaze pierced him, glowing like twin suns. "The truth that my people, the Veyron, were not only rulers, we were conquerors. We enslaved entire worlds. We crushed those who resisted. We thought ourselves eternal. And I, Solara, heir of that throne, was raised to believe mercy was weakness. The chains were the destiny of the weak." Her voice echoed in the ruined hall. Cold and sorrowful, Marcus swallowed hard, the weight of her words striking deep. He had freed her, shown her mercy, yet she confessed her bloodline carried only cruelty. "So the Empire is right to fear you," he whispered, "if you return, if you rise. It all begins again." Her eyes burned with anger and pain. "No, human, it does not. Because I have seen what chains truly are. I have felt their weight, their shame. I was made a symbol of humiliation, and in that suffering, I learned what my people never did. I learned that mercy is not weakness. It is strength." She stepped closer, her voice trembling with emotion. "But the galaxy will not believe me. They will only see my bloodline. They will only see fear." The soldiers advanced a step, weapons ready. Marcus's mind raced. He looked at her glowing eyes and proud stance, at the scars hidden beneath her strength. "So why tell me this now?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Solara's expression softened, almost fragile. "Because you must choose, human. You freed me. You tied yourself to me. But if you walk further, there will be no turning back. The Empire will hunt you across stars. Your own people may turn against you, all because you chose mercy for someone the galaxy calls monster." Her voice lowered, heavy with sorrow. "If you leave me now, I will not stop you. But if you stay, you must accept what comes. Even if it destroys you." The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the distant roar of fire outside. Marcus's hand trembled on his weapon, his heart torn. He thought of all the dangers he had faced before, smugglers, pirates, soldiers. But nothing had ever demanded so much from him. Nothing had ever forced him to look at who he truly was. He remembered the bazaar, the sign above her head, the chains that glowed with cruel power, the laughter of the crowd as she stood proud despite it all. He remembered the sting as he broke each shackle, the fire in her eyes when she warned him, and the whisper in his own heart that said no one deserved chains. He looked at her now, not as a conqueror, not as a monster, but as someone who had suffered, who carried guilt heavier than steel, who still stood tall when the galaxy wanted her broken. And in that moment Marcus knew his choice. He stepped forward, standing beside her, his voice steady though his chest burned. "I won't leave you, Solara. I freed you because it was right. And I'll stay with you because it is still right. No empire, no fear will change that." Her eyes widened, glowing brighter, for the first time truly soft. She whispered, "You would stand with me. Even if it destroys everything," Marcus nodded. "Yes, because mercy is not weakness, and if the galaxy doesn't understand that, then we'll make them," the soldiers shouted, raising their weapons. The leader's voice roared, "Take them both. Alive if possible." But Solara's power surged, the ground split, the walls shook, light poured from her hands. The soldiers stumbled back in terror. Marcus stood firm at her side, his resolve burning like fire, and in that moment, in the broken temple lit by her power, the choice of mercy became a weapon stronger than any chain. The broken temple glowed with Solara's power, her light spilling across cracked walls and shattered stone. The soldiers at the entrance hesitated, their weapons raised but their hands shaking. The ground still trembled from the force she had unleashed. Marcus stood beside her, his blaster steady though he knew it meant little against an army, his voice steady in his chest. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward, his black armor scorched, his voice harsh. "Human, you do not understand. This woman is not salvation, she is ruin, hand her over, and you may live." His words cut like steel. Echoing across the hall, Marcus took a step forward, his shadow long in the firelight, his voice firm. "You call her ruin because you only know fear. You chain what you fear, you burn what you fear, but I am human, and humans choose differently. We choose mercy," the soldiers murmured among themselves. Their leader sneered, "Mercy is weakness." "Mercy is how empires fall," Solara's eyes flashed. But Marcus raised a hand, stopping her. He spoke louder, his words carrying into the night. "Then let me show you something new. Let me show you what strength looks like when it chooses to forgive, not destroy." The soldiers hesitated, their discipline cracking. No one had ever spoken like this, not in the presence of the chained one. Silara's gaze turned to Marcus, her lips parting slightly, her voice soft so only he could hear. They will not listen. They only know chains. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then let's make them listen. Outside the temple, more ships circled, their lights flashing across the ruins. The sky itself seemed to hum with engines. The Empire had brought its full might. Silara lifted her head high, her silver skin glowing brighter, her voice sharp as thunder. I was once heir of the Veyran dominion. I was once pride and conquest, but now I am something else. I am free. And I will not be chained again. The soldiers staggered as her voice echoed like a storm, but Marcus stepped beside her, raising his blaster high, though it shook in his hand. His voice fierce. And I am Marcus, only human. But I stand with her not because I am strong, but because I know mercy is stronger than fear. The Empire's commander roared an order. The soldiers fired. Beams of blue light streaked through the air. The temple exploded with fire and smoke. But Silara raised her arms, her power surged like a rising tide. The blasts curved, bending around her, striking walls and shattering stone, but never touching them. Marcus shielded his face, his heart pounding. Then Silara unleashed her strength not as a weapon of death, but as a shield. A dome of shimmering light spread from her body, pushing the soldiers back. Their weapons flickered uselessly. Their eyes wide with terror, Marcus realized she was not killing. She was protecting. Every stone, every wall within her power stood firm despite the storm of fire. The soldiers faltered, their discipline shattered. Some dropped their weapons, others backed away. The commander shouted in rage, but even he stumbled as the light pressed against him. Silara's voice rang out across the ruins. You fear me because of my bloodline. You fear me because of chains, but look now, I am free. And my freedom is not your ruin. It is your lesson. Marcus felt the words strike through the silence. And for the first time he saw soldiers lower their weapons not from fear, but from something else, hesitation, doubt, perhaps even understanding. The commander roared again. Drawing a blade of energy, he charged at Silara, but Marcus stepped forward, blocking his path. His blaster useless, but his courage unshaken. If you want her chained again, you'll have to go through me, he shouted. His voice raw. The commander swung, but before the blade could fall, Silara's hand rose, her power surged, the blade shattered like glass. The commander thrown across the temple, his armor cracking against stone, silence followed, thick and heavy. The remaining soldiers froze, their weapons lowered slowly. The glow of their visors dimmed one by one, they stepped back. Not in fear alone, but in surrender, the hunt had broken. The Empire's grip cracked in the face of something it had never expected. Silara lowered her arms, the light fading, her body trembling faintly. She turned to Marcus, her eyes glowing but soft. You stood with me when no one else would. You chose mercy when the galaxy chose fear. Her voice almost a whisper. You untied me, and now I will never walk alone again. Marcus exhaled. His heart still racing, he lowered his blaster, the temple around them in ruins. But in that ruin stood something new, a bond unbroken. Outside, the night sky was still filled with ships, but none dared descend, none dared fire. The Empire had seen enough. The sight of a human and the chained heir standing side by side would echo across the stars. Silara looked to the horizon, her voice steady. This is not the end. They will come again. They will hunt us always. But from this day they know mercy is not weakness, it is defiance. It is freedom. Marcus nodded, his eyes sharp. Then let them come, because they'll find humanity standing with you. The two of them stepped out of the broken temple, the wind carrying ash and smoke, but also carrying something new, a story that would spread from world to world, a story of chains broken not by fear but by mercy. And as they vanished into the night, together the galaxy itself seemed to pause. For the first time in centuries, the heirs of fear and the voice of mercy walked side by side, and nothing would ever be the same again.